Peace and love. Welcome to the Monday night edition of the Peace in the Morning Show. It's a special edition. This is part 2. Tonight, we are addressing emotional intelligence on Emotional Intelligence Mondays here live on the Peace in the Morning Show. This is Darius A. Stanton, and it's sponsored by Competitive Edge EQ. That's right, emotional intelligence. You're going to hear from them momentarily, but tonight, just to let you know, we're doing a special edition of Emotional Intelligence Monday on the Peace in the Morning Show, just to make sure that we stay focused on what is important in order for ourselves, our young people, our communities to be able to be safe, to be healthy, to be thriving, to be moving forward, and making sure that we're doing it collectively and critical thinking at our core. But emotional intelligence, how we think about ourselves, how we think about others, our awareness of what's going on, the way people feel when you say things to them, how you address those things, your ability to self-actualize and understand like who you are, what's going on when you step outside of your behavior and see that you are not moving the way that you need to be moving. Those are just some elements of emotional intelligence. You'll hear more about it from the president of Emotional Intelligence, co-founder Lisa Leonard. Peace and love. Welcome from Competitive Edge EQ. Peace and love, Queen.
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are. I think all three may apply. Darius, the music is a little, there you go. The music was just a little loud. I don't even think they heard us. You had a phenomenal introduction around emotional intelligence. So I'm not
probably
sure.
Not. You know, when I'm pump, it might, so the music might have overdriven. At least if they heard the words of the song, then they got a good word there too. But this is Lisa Leonard from Competitive Edge EQ. She is the co-founder and president of an organization that's focused on so many wonderful things, taking young people from one perspective to another through emotional intelligence, and they have several elements of how they do it. Welcome back, or should I say forward, to the Peace in the Morning Show, Lisa.
Thank you so very much for having me. I'm so glad to be here this evening. Last Monday was phenomenal, so I know that this Monday or tonight show is going to be amazing for so many reasons, specifically because we're talking about emotional intelligence across sports. And so last week we talked about what is emotional intelligence and how student athletes should be able to navigate through those emotions. I like the fact that you brought up the idea or the concept of self-awareness, because that's really where emotional intelligence starts, from the inside out. Developing your level of self-awareness is incredibly important because it allows you to respond differently in any situation, whether it's a crisis or not. It allows you the ability to feel and experience what you're feeling, and then have the capacity to respond in an appropriate way or to the benefit of yourself. So I am excited tonight because we are having this discussion with another organization that we partnered with. And so let's get into it. I'm excited.
Well, let's before we go to the other organization, let's go to the other founder of EQ. My good brother, Laker fan. We still cheering somebody on, just not our Lakers. My man.
Yeah, boy.
Hey, Lenny, what's up, Coach?
Good evening to everyone. Good morning or good afternoon, wherever you may lay or lie in this space. Like my wife said, we focus on emotional intelligence and the importance of emotional intelligence, obviously, in this month of mental health. One of the things that we really look forward to is discussing how important emotional intelligence is, mental health is, mental wellness is, especially in this month as it's being featured. And one of the things that came out about a week ago was a CDC report, as well as the Surgeon General talking about emotional wellness in young people and young teens, that there is a crisis coming out of the pandemic. There's a crisis that parents need to pay a little closer attention to young people, and specifically as we deal with student athletes, what a lot of people fail to realize is that even though they may be in shape, they're going through, in some cases, much more of a crisis because people aren't paying attention to their mental piece. They're just seeing their physical attributes. So we're here tonight to kind of highlight and talk about those things.
Yes, sir. Well, Lenny, we're excited to have you all again for part 2 of Emotional Intelligence Mondays. And we last week talked about several parenting tips. So we'll work to go back over those. We also, at the very end, we'll give out some tips as well. But we want to make sure that people understand, really, you need to have, regardless of your children's status, whether they're doing well in school, whether they look like their grades are okay, they may be working, you just never know where they are, unless you talk to them and even at that point, but you can do as much as you possibly can to communicate with them. And so Competitive Edge EQ really works to make sure that we understand how important it is to create safe spaces for children, and those first safe spaces being at home and being able to communicate with their parents, their coaches, and those people they care about. Speaking of people that we care about, we got some other folks that's waiting in the wings to come on. We are all pumped up and ready to go to have these two young ladies on the Piece of the Morning show tonight. Lisa, are you ready?
I am. I'm absolutely ready. I'm excited. Listen, you guys have no idea how excited I am about these two young ladies for so many reasons, not to go too deep into the weeds, but anytime you have two Black women who are leaders in their own right, but in the boxing space, killing it, listen, I'm excited for them. I'm excited about them. I'm excited for them. But more importantly, before we bring them on, I want to say this specifically, and this is directed to all nonprofits or just organizations in general. We cannot be afraid to form partnerships. We can't be afraid to do that. The heavy lift can be easier when we connect together. And so I am super excited for Competitive Edge to partner with HOGO because, so you don't know what HOGO means, heels off, gloves on. I'm so excited to partner with these ladies because we are of like mind, pushing to do to lift in the community, to make sure our youth are okay. And I didn't know a whole lot about boxing from the standpoint of the inner workings of boxing. I just watched. And so when I got to the feet of these young ladies to hear all of the intricacies of boxing, I was mesmerized. So I'm excited. And I think that's a fair enough introduction about HOGO. I'm going to just shut up and let them come on in.
All right. So, hey, listen, ladies, welcome to the Piece of the Morning show, special edition focused on emotional intelligence here on Monday night. We are so pumped up, as you can see, to have you all aboard. Tamara, tell me, what is it that got you pumped up and to wanting to create and really lead an organization like HOGO Boxing?
So thank you for having us first and foremost. I have been involved with boxing almost 2 decades, and that was due to my daughter's interest back in high school. She has since left the sport, raising her own family. I became a boxing official initially. My daughter's coach encouraged me to be a referee. I turned that down because there would be no boxing. Once I saw one of the babies hurt or bleeding, then my mother instincts would kick in and interfere with the show. But I did proceed judging. I moved up the ranks from a level 1 all the way up to chief of official for Potomac Valley Association, which is the local boxing committee here in the DMV. We took care of Washington, D.C., Prince George's County, and Montgomery County. And my partner, who you're going to meet momentarily, Candy Jacobs, I just kind of watched her because she was well organized. And as the chief of official, we took care of the player field. We helped put the officials in place. We helped with the weigh-ins. We helped with some of the matchmaking at times, but we might not have done the matchmaking, but we had to verify and ensure it was done correctly according to USA Boxing rules. And this woman was so organized and phenomenal. I was picking up habits, little tidbits, looking at her the whole time. She was once president of our organization. And I'm going to pause right there so that Candy can say something. But the bottom line is boxing was full of children that came from challenging communities. Their coaches were sacrificing tremendously, working, coming to the gyms, coming out of their pockets. The organization was trying to raise funds to get these kids to national tournaments, to make sure the kids had boxing equipment. And so you'll hear our story in a little while longer in the show, but I just couldn't walk away. Even though my daughter was done, I had to stay because there was a need. And I felt when I watched all of these brothers doing phenomenal things, I was like, how could I not support them in their effort? So It wasn't just about the kids. It was also about the men. And in my space, it was predominantly African-American men.
Right.
And they don't get the credit that they deserve.
That's right.
As coaches. Right. And I just knew whatever they needed, that I was going to be there to support them. And my husband supported me in that effort.
Wow. Well, thank you so much for just sharing your story, for coming on the Peace of the Morning show, really supporting and partnering with Competitive Edge EQ, because this is also, the first public announcement of the partnership, between the two organizations, Competitive Edge EQ and HOGO. And, I think it only is befitting that we hear and understand the essence of the people who started this and give credit where credit is due, because it's important that people know who's pushing people, that energy, because so many people sit on the sideline and don't get involved because they feel like, nothing can be done or it doesn't really matter, but it's making a difference, every life that's being touched. And so to keep on talking with the HOGO team, Miss Candy Jacobs, thank you so much. She's the vice president of HOGO Boxing Foundation. Candy, thank you for being on the Peace of the Morning show, special edition of Monday night. Emotional intelligence.
Correction. She's our president. I'm vice president.
Swap. Bam. There you go, Ms. Candy Jacobs, our president of HOGO Boxing Foundation. Thank you so much for being here. And thank you, Ms. Tamara, for bringing that to my attention.
Smooth transition. Thank you for having me. Thank you for having us. And additionally, the Leonards, thank you so much for seeing the specialty that we could bring to helping to continue to help you as we help ourselves and the people in our community to want to even partner with HOGO. So we thank you. Our heart is indebted to you guys, one, for what it is that you do, and two, to even see that we could contribute to what it is that you want to do into the community as well.
Wonderful. Well, the fact that people are coming together in the midst at a time where it doesn't seem like people are really willing to step out there, and people that are working collectively have an opportunity to come together on June 10th. This is going to be another exciting event, the second annual Monte Carlo Casino Night at Country Club at Woodmore on June 10th, starting at 7 p.m. You do not want to miss it. You got Marcus Johnson. You have his wine flow, a flow wine tasting, a cigar bar, music by DJ dancing, food, and a silent auction. Whoo! And you get to meet the ladies of HOGO Foundation. You get to meet so many local celebrities, people who are doing the work. Just a real good group of people. And it's the second annual event. The tickets are only $125. I will put the website on the board and you'll be able to see it. Go to the website, get your tickets, share it, donate, make sure people know about Competitive Edge EQ, because they are pushing people that push people and love people, and hurt people. And they're making sure that young people understand who they are and how to manage the stress, the anxiety, and depression that they may be dealing with from sports, their family life, just being bullied, and you just bullied, or or bullying themselves. You never know what young people are going through. So support Competitive Edge EQ. When you see it come up, get right on it. Push it, share it, and share this show. So ladies and gentlemen, let's get into it. Tonight we want to talk about how emotional intelligence rivals and deals. It's in every sport because, of course, there are humans that are doing every sport. So the mentality of being able to bring boxing to the forefront, talk to us about what it is that you see in the sport that you're promoting, how emotional intelligence really taps into that.
Well, I'll speak. This is Candy. Hogo Boxing, when we did decide to get together to make this great organization, it started out as a few young ladies just saying, "Hey, we can do this. We can definitely do this." And we and with the like minds got together, and we just pushed forward and came up with our cause and our mission, which is to help individuals, organizations, and community to leverage the power of boxing to improve the lives of the underserved youth. Our crusade through the sport of boxing is designed to boost self-esteem, promote sportsmanship, champion fitness, and enhance community engagement. We found that in the sport of boxing, as Tamara had already mentioned, we had a lot of coaches and kids who didn't have, and they came from the underserved communities. And so for them, in order for them to compete, them going out of town or being able to participate in a tournament, it was an opportunity to get to be removed from their neighborhoods, may have been terrible neighborhoods. And so that gave them an opportunity to leave this area, Washington, D.C., Montgomery County, Prince George's County, and go to Texas or California, Ohio, places they would have never gone. We've had a group of youth that have gone to Belfast, Ireland. We've had groups of youth that have gone to different parts of the country that they had never even got on a plane, let alone left Washington, D.C. in certain circumstances. So for us, it was really about us knowing these particular individuals and the types of individuals who come from these communities and that they participate in the sports that we're involved in. We wanted to give back. We wanted to be able to help. If it meant allowing them to get some more equipment or traveling or just to get out of the communities that they live in and strive in on a regular basis, give them opportunity to kind of like turn the light off, so to speak, or in some of the situation and escape, and so this was really the forefront of what kind of motivated us to move forward. I mean, I come from a boxing background. My father, I basically was birthed in the gym. And my father had started a boxing program in Palmer Park, Maryland in the late 60s. And from that, it basically allowed, I saw it firsthand where, the kids were coming, they would stay at our house, they would eat dinner. In some instances, it was the first time they were exposed to two parents being in the same home. And so my mom was the one who she baked cupcakes for bake sales in order for them to raise money just to be able to have gas money to get them to different states to go and compete in these different tournaments and things like that. So I've seen firsthand in my own life how it's important to be able to give back and be able to provide for these different opportunities for these kids because they don't have, the parents can't give, $25 towards gas for a group of their teammates to be able to travel in one particular vehicle to even go to Philadelphia. So I've seen that. And from that perspective, it's very important. I always say this, and this is one of my hugest mottos is that if any of us collectively here watching at the sound of my voice and can see me, somebody gave up their time for us when we were young. Somebody opened a gym for us. Someone someone stayed late in order for you to be able to still be able to put in that one last layup or, to run another lap or to be able to hit the punching bag one last time. If it wasn't for some adult that was in our lives, whether it was the 70s, 80s, 90s, whenever it was, it's our time to give back because we see that need and it's best for us to do something. If not now, then when?
That's right. So Darius, I know that you want to get into the EQ space to talk about how it relates to across sports, specifically in this case boxing. But I needed to park it real quick where Candy just left off, primarily because that is where really we have to couch these conversations around nonprofits or grassroots organizations who are in the trenches doing the work, creating, building for the purpose and for the benefit of our young people. I think probably the 4 or 5 of us have experienced that moment where someone said yes. Someone said yes to us. Someone allowed us to have a second chance or an opportunity, as Candy was speaking of. As she was talking, I was thinking about my own time growing up, and Joe Puhala was one person who took time from me. And so again, that mentoring piece in any capacity is really, really important. And if we think about the moment that someone said yes to us, it should be easy for us to say yes to the work that we're doing, Competitive Edge, yes to Hogo, yes to whatever it is that we need in order to ensure that our young people have the opportunity to be better, the opportunity to succeed. And so that for me was the cusp of this partnership. When I called Tamara and I said, this is what I'm looking for. And she said, wait a minute, but I'm right here. The reason that we formed this partnership is because that core belief that somebody has to say yes in order to create opportunity for our young people to thrive and be successful adults.
Well,
can I chime in real quick? Can I chime in real quick?
Sure. Ladies' night, Monday night.
Well, when I met Lisa and Lenny at Duval's Duval High School homecoming, and when I found out the phenomenal things that they did for athletes, really, I'm not an athlete, but I wanted to raise my hand and tell Lisa, I'm a candidate. I need you to give me some emotional intelligence too. But it was just phenomenal. And I thought about the fact that we have, she mentioned football, basketball, a few other sports. And I said, like she said, I was like, I'm here. What about boxing? And she said, I don't know any boxers. I don't know any boxing teams. I said, boxing is throughout the whole DMV area. And we have coaches that mean well, but maybe they need some more tools in their box to help their athletes. And so to me, this partnership is a win-win situation. And like Lisa said, it's no way that we can thrive if we stay in our own silos. We have to reach across the aisle. In families, you have more than one member because God, your creator, is bringing you knowledge from the people around you. And I think the same about nonprofits and organizations. You're not everything. So you have to reach out, extend that hand and say, teach me. It's not always about what you could give to them. Sometimes you need to let them know you need some tools too. And Lisa was very open to listening to our needs, and she agreed to do this partnership. And so I'm so thankful and grateful. Like Candy said, we're just elated about this partnership, and we appreciate you guys because yes, we have coaches that can teach boxing, and boxing is, most people think it's about physical, but it's a mental game. Mm-hmm. Boxing is a mental game. And so with that and their experience, their background, they have additional tools that our athletes need, and they're going to give it to them. And why wouldn't we make sure they have a chance to eat?
Sure.
Partnerships are important, and I believe something very basic that we as Black and brown folks sometimes forget, and it's a simple thing: we are only as strong as our weakest link. So all of the nonprofits all around the country, specifically in the DMV, specifically in Prince George's County, we need to stop trying to work in silos, because at the end of the day, most people forget that most big businesses are partnerships. They're called conglomerates. So that means a bunch of businesses coming together to form a partnership to do great things. That's all we're trying to do, a competitive edge, and that's all we're trying to do in the sporting community, be it boxing, be it baseball, be it basketball, be it football. It doesn't matter. The bottom line is these ladies are helping through the sport of boxing change lives. When young people go to a different state, it changes their mindset. Now all of a sudden they see something different. Now all of a sudden they see a different way than the way they're used to seeing. So that begins to plant that little mustard seed that can grow. And that's really what it's all about, for us to use, in our case, emotional intelligence to kind of help them navigate and answer those unanswered questions that are in their minds of why not me? And the answer is, with the right opportunity and supports, it is you. You can change.
Sure. So I know that Darius asked the question around the emotional intelligence piece, and how our focus is around how EQ threads throughout every sport. And I think that Tamara just kind of alluded to the idea around boxing.
I think one of the things, though, Lisa, that kind of just illustrates, excuse me for interrupting, that illustrates emotional intelligence on a level that we have to understand it as human beings and leaders of organizations, just like Lenny just explained, and the Queens also addressed, and that is the need to understand the value of coming together and working in collaboration. And as my good brother Aaron Owen says, to complete and not compete. It's okay to compete in the ring. It's okay to compete on the court. But when we come outside of those rings and all of those walls, we are completing each other.
Yep.
And so I just wanted to give credence to that. And that is emotional intelligence, recognizing the fact that that you need somebody else and they need you too. Sure. And that we've got to create an environment as leaders, as coaches, as organization heads, as parents, and become just more gracious with each other, because a lot of us are doing it, with the money out of our homes, is feeling the organizations. Yep. It's coming out of our pockets, it's going into people's children's mouths, and registration fees and jerseys and hotel rooms and all of those things that people are paying for. And it's coming out of people's everyday 9 to 5s, sure. Whatever else they've been blessed to do. And so when people see that, we got to be able to recognize and give that grace. And so I think it's important, that they did illustrate, the partnership as it applies to, so people can, own emotional intelligence, that's what Lisa's going to do.
Yeah, but you make a good point in that, I'm sorry, Lenny, but you make a good point in that the last few weeks I've been talking about that emotional intelligence development is not just for student athletes. It's for every single human being, because we lead and function with our emotions. So that's why the development is important. And so, Darius, you're absolutely right in that even as executors or founders of organizations, a part of understanding this partnership is also understanding our level of awareness individually that is connected to our passion. And so because this was an easy fit, because we have a level of awareness so deep that is connected to our passion, but also connected to our community. And so we believe in the covering of our community to that extent because of our level of awareness. And so EQ is important for all levels of development.
And there's one of the things that, as you asked the question as it relates to sport, having stuck my hand in the ring for a hot second at police at number 11 Boys and Girls Club and said, no, that one wasn't for me. You got to understand one thing, and I remember him talking about controlled aggression.
Yeah.
That's emotional intelligence. Being able to control when somebody popped you upside your head and have the clarity of knowing how to counter, how to bob, how to weave.
Right.
That's what boxing does. And one of the things that we do at Competitive Edge is begin to unlock the keys to what I call aggressive sports: boxing, taekwondo, football, those rugby. Those are aggressive sports. But in that aggressive sport, you have to be able to control your emotions, which is EQ, which is having the self-awareness. Okay, and even in basketball, I got bold. Well, I just can't come out and just punch somebody. I have to know how, in the flow of the game, get mine in. That's emotional intelligence. So young people are understanding at a very early age how to control those emotions without even understanding what they are. So that is what emotional intelligence is. And in boxing, believe it or not, what I find interesting is most people see it as aggression, but it is controlled aggression. It takes a lot to be able to control your emotions and focus on the other opponent in a way that's coherent. That's emotional intelligence, and that's not being talked about in boxing at all. But go ahead.
No, I was just going to say that's referred to in EQ as emotional fluency. So when we talk about emotional fluency, Lenny said controlled aggression, but when we talk about emotional fluency, it's having an awareness of your physical bodily signals. It's having an awareness that when...
Can you repeat it again? Emotional what?
Emotional fluency.
Emotional fluency.
Right. And that part of that is literally having an awareness of what's happening physically in the moment that it's happening. So if you talk about boxing, and I'm going to depend on Candy and Tamara and Lenny in this space, but when you talk about boxing, my assumption is while you're in the ring getting hit, you have a sense of what's happening physically. You have a sense of what's happening. And you've learned how to, Lenny mentioned control aggression. You've learned how to navigate those bodily signals in a way that works to your benefit. So in EQ, we call it emotional fluency.
Wow. When you said emotional fluency at first, I was like, it's Monday night. I'm thinking emotional fluency. I thought you had created a whole new term. I was like, hey, Lisa Rowland, she got her own emotional intelligence term.
See, I learned something. So thank you for that.
There you go. That's exactly what I'm going to
I think that conversation around what does it take, Candy and Tamara, what does it take for a boxer to exist in the ring? So for that 2 minutes, every 3 minutes, every single round, what does it take physically? We're not so much talking about the emotional piece, but physically, what does it take for them to exist in the ring?
Proper training. So physically, it's proper training, it's dedication. And some people think that even on the physical aspect, boxing is truly a thinking man's or thinking woman's sport. Lisa, you and I, we had spoken and we spoke collectively, and I said, boxing is like chess. You have to think, you have to counter, you have to there's so many different ways that a boxing match could go, right? They always say, you think you want to box, or you can play boxing until somebody hits you back.
Until you go to number 11 Boys and Girls Club.
And you get hit back. But physically, there is proper training. And see, and this is a singular person sport. This is not on a team where I can, hey, I twist my ankle while running down the court and or something like that, and I can get a sub to come in for me. That's not it. Sure. Not with this. So it's training 5 days a week. It's going in, it's running, it's getting your physical fitness together as far as, for some of them, they're having to run 5 miles a day, running at a particular speed. So that's building up the condition of them being able to breathe, because you're going to get tired. It's what you're going to do when you get tired, because your mind is going to tell you, I don't want to do this anymore. But your body is going to say, okay, we still can do this. We can do this. We can do this. We can do this. And you begin to continue to push forward. You're going to have the motivation of the people around you, teammates, coaches, other boxers, that is going to really push you into saying, okay, I can't quit. I can't quit. But the physicality, it's training every day for 5 days a week. And then you go and you compete on a Saturday. And, it's not a season like basketball season or football season or soccer season or volleyball season. Right. It's all year long. So these young people are training every day, all year round.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And Candy and I have seen individuals that train like a beast in the gym.
Wow.
When they're comfortable with their coaches and their peers.
The excitement and the energy that you all have in terms of wanting to help people. And I know that, Tamara, you mentioned also how valuable it is for the coaches. I remember talking about number 11 and just the Boys and Girls Clubs in DC and Pop Warner football, and how valuable it continues to be to train the coaches that are working with our young people. Because a lot of people think that in order to teach young people how to survive, you got to teach them how to be able to live on the street. And you do need to teach them how to live on the street, but you also need to teach them how to live in every environment that they go into, and that's emotional intelligence. You've got to learn how to think critically. You need to know how to behave when, how to move, how to pay attention to your environment, but most importantly, why it's important to follow directions and how to, just being able to take stock of yourself. And in so many instances, because we have not had the type of training and weren't raised right, we think that that's what's going to help them survive. Mm-hmm. But we need to be able to make sure that they're in front of organizations. Our coach that was our guest last week, former Coppin State Eagle, talked about how her team, all of the coaches, the parents, and the children benefited from Competitive Edge EQ coming in and doing a training that really altered the way that they were looking and dealing with their children specifically, to make sure that they were able to support them and help them, because the children were able to speak in a safe space. Mm-hmm. So that's what you're getting when you bring Competitive Edge EQ to your organization, whether it's for sports, whether it's for students, not just necessarily student athletes, coaches, any organization that's dealing with parents and where young people are in stressful environments, they all can benefit from Competitive Edge EQ. And now that we got Hogo on the line, we're ready to just all pumped up and ready to go and talk about our big event coming up on June 10th for a minute. Lenny, so, tell us who's on the show that night. It's 7 p.m., on the 10th of June. Who's going to be live performing at the Woodmore Country Club?
Jazz artist Marcus Johnson will be performing live. In addition to Marcus Johnson, what we're going to have is a live DJ. In addition to that, we're going to be having Marcus Johnson's Flow wine tasting. Also a cigar bar that is the Tinderbox is a sponsor for the cigar bar. In addition to that, we will have a live auction. So we're going to have music live, DJ, dancing, wine tasting, cigars, and a live auction. That's what's going on June 10th at the Woodmore Country Club. Come out. Competitive Edge and Hogo.
Okay, Petey Green, say it loud, say it proud.
I'm black and I'm proud. I tell it to the hot. We'll stop right
That's
there.
right. And
Wait,
that-
go ahead and finish it, Lenny. You know you remember it.
Yeah, I do. But we don't stay focused.
That's right. We're gonna let that roll, huh, man? Okay, well, moving right along. So as we get ready to wrap for the evening, we've got about 15 more minutes to touch on looking at emotional intelligence and understanding the value from sport to sport and how it builds upon each other. The one of the unique things I watched some of the tennis. I think it's one of the mid-major tournaments that's going on right now, and the young people are they're 16, 17, 18, 19 years old. Just like in boxing, they're going to national championships. Fighting and playing international ball. And that's a lot of stress and pressure. And like as you said, people don't. They see the finished product, but they don't see the amount of time and energy in the ring and determination and the discipline that it takes to get up and run every day when everybody else is playing, when everybody else is doing their thing. They're in a whole nother world. And that, the great thing about it is that expelling all of that fear and toxicity in the body, because you are working out at that consistent rate and pace, is so good for the body. Unfortunately, a lot of people aren't able to address and deal with the other stresses that come with it, right? Because it's a lot of stress and pressure coming and playing at that level, and so that's another reason why I think it's so important for people to tune into, what Competitive Edge EQ is doing and the work that you all are, kind of at the grassroots level bringing about. Talk about what you see, in terms of moving forward. Tamara, you spoke a little bit about it in terms of how you could see your coaches benefiting from, that, talk a little bit about, not necessarily your coaches, but just understanding the backgrounds of some of the people that are working with some of our young people.
So let me just tell you this. Candy and I have seen the reason why Lisa and them are so important for boxers. We have seen boxers that are in a comfortable space training, right? And they look like they're going to be the next Mike Tyson. But when you take them out of that gym environment and put them in a competition, you'll see a totally different person compete. And wow. That Mike Tyson that you thought you were watching for weeks turns out to be somebody that really cannot handle the crowd. They've been taken out of their comfort zone, and therefore it affects their performance. Right. So this is another reason why emotional intelligence and competitive edge is going to be important for our boxers, because I'm not going to say the coaches don't know, but you would really be surprised how you can go in a gym and observe, and you can watch an individual and you come to an assumption, because that's what it is. It's your own assumption. You watch and you see something totally different when it comes to competition. So it's a matter of just changing environment. Sometimes will have a huge impact on a boxer. But
you know what, Tamara, even as you were talking, I was thinking about the patterns that exist in like every sport. Absolutely. And you mentioned, you see the boxer in the gym and they look like a world beater. They can be whomever, Mike Tyson, whomever, and then you take them out of that comfort zone or the element and they have to perform, and they don't perform to the extent that you thought that they would. And the same thing applies even to basketball players and I would venture to say football players and so forth, that they're in one space, and then whether it's, let's just say hypothetically, they're playing at the high school level, and then they transition to the college level, and they're not what the coach thought that they would be. And the truth is, even if that happens, which it happens often, that the young person needs the ability or the skill set to be able to navigate that space to the extent that now they're able to recalibrate their own emotions around what they're experiencing. That boxer who is working feverishly, doing training, and then transfer into a competition and get his, maybe butt whoop is not the best way to describe it. I don't know the appropriate description of it, but they get beat up, right? They lose. But they lose I'm sorry, forgive me for anybody who's listening. I am not a boxer or, whatever. So they lose. And so they still need the capacity or the skills to be able to navigate that experience in a way that allows them to work harder and come back, but also in a way that allows them to recognize what happened in the moment. So that's a part of the work that we do in terms of unpacking what happened in the moment after it has happened. Now, how do we build their capacity to perform at a higher level? And a part of that is when I was talking about that emotional fluency, the fear that may come about when you walk into a rink and there's 5,000 people there. How do I manage my emotions around that? How do I interact with my own body in those moments that would thrust me into performing at a high level? Right. That's the kind of work, the EQ work that we do. And so I am so attracted to the idea of working with boxers in that space, just to see how we can transform their emotional intelligence. The last part that I want to add too, though, is even as we think about boxers' performance in the ring, the EQ is important for how they perform outside of the ring. So how are you managing your day-to-day when you're not boxing, when you don't have the punching bag in front of you to release stress and so forth? How am I coping with my day-to-day challenges when that doesn't exist, or if I can't do it anymore? I think that's important too to explore, because I would be interested in the data around boxers who are successful thereafter, after the sport is done with them. Because sometimes, the sport is just done with you, whether you want to be done with it or not. But what is the success rate of those boxers thereafter? And that would be important to know.
Another piece to that, Lisa, is when it comes to a boxer, the coaches want they raise them and train them to be boxers, but they also raise them and train them to be gentlemen outside of the ring. And sometimes when the community is aware that they are boxing, you have those individuals that try to provoke them. And so then they have to make the right decisions to not be provoked, to walk away. So that's a very important piece for them to work on as well.
Yeah.
Which
it's coming up, Lenny. I'm gonna open this up for you, Lenny, because Lenny's gonna be talking next week. Is gonna be focused on Plan B, right? And Plan B is gonna talk about what happens after the sport itself and how that's impacted. But I think, Tamara, you brought up a key point in terms of just again that emotional intelligence about being able to identify what's transpiring in your environment and how they can play out if you behave or conduct yourself in a certain way. All of those thought processes But Lenny, I just wanted to tee that up for you because I know Plan B was just sitting in the wings. I know you.
Well, I kind of wanted to kind of tap on, we as a community, we don't always give athletes their due credit and just credit. And Tamara kind of went down the lane that we pride ourselves on, connecting with all sports, is that boxers aren't given the kind of credit for walking away. They're not given, they have it, and they're practicing emotional intelligence without it being called emotional intelligence.
True.
The ability to walk away in situations where physically you're more superior because you're training every day. And they're smart enough and emotionally and self-aware to say, hey, I'm walking away. That is a sport, as the same thing with football players. You're getting challenged sometimes, and you're trained to meet the challenge, but you're self-aware. I'm not in the ring, not on the field. I'm good. Have a nice day.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
That is something that the boxing community does not get enough credit for, and that it's really important. And to go on the next end and tee back to you in terms of the Plan B, is that those are the skills in terms of that they are being taught at an early age in boxing, in basketball, and football, to begin to understand what the Plan B is. And we identify that they have those skill sets inside of them. It's just called something different. And we want to nurture those skills and give them those skills so that they understand they have the skills to be able to successfully transition into something else. We're just highlighting it and showing it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and we're on the verge of closing. I think one of the things that kind of gets overlooked is something Tamara talked about with regard to mental toughness. And you think about the athletes who do extremely well until they go away to college and they've never been away from home and they get homesick, or the academic rigor wasn't anywhere near what they dealt with when they got to college. And when you think about it, it happens in professional settings as well. Young people go into jobs. A friend of ours worked at FAA, and she said a lot of this students who would come in either from internships or now, in those entry-level roles, they only had to be there 6 months, and after that they were in, right? And they could not deal with the staff meetings, some of the things that just from an environment they had not been into. And so they weren't used to people talking to them, kind of jumping at them they didn't know how to deal in that space. And they had nobody to go back to say mom or dad or uncle this, how do I'm in this meeting and they're asking me stuff I don't know, the pressure and not just the basics that we kind of take for granted, and so it's really important that we continue to create those vehicles and that people understand things from a more holistic perspective and not just in the moment, or what's going to happen for Plan B. And so next week, we're going to talk about Competitive Edge EQ. We'll be back for the final. We may do a little sleeper Friday night, but right now we know that next Monday night will be the third part of a 3-part series focused on Emotional Intelligence Mondays. And we're going to talk about Plan B. That's going to be the focus. Plan B. What is your Plan B? For athletes, for coaches, for anybody, what is your Plan B? And just having that thought process is so important. And you definitely need to know that you need a Plan B for your children's education. Your Plan A should be home. You should be homeschooling off the break. That's a whole other show. I'm not going to hit it right now, but that's what you need to know, that education starts at home. But Plan B is going to be the topic for next week. We are so excited about having Tamara and Candy on. I wanted to let you all, before we give one more commercial about June 10th, in which you all will be there if you want to see the ladies that have the heels off and gloves on, but that night y'all probably have heels on and gloves on.
And I'm gonna have my tennis shoes in my backpack.
Somebody, right. No, but so just tell us, what you see coming up, for beyond June 10th, which is the Monte Carlo Casino Night. That's going to benefit Competitive Edge and also Hogo Boxing at Whitmore Country Club. A phenomenal lineup: Marcus Johnson, wine tasting, cigar bar, DJ dancing, and food at the prestigious Country Club at Whitmore. So down at the bottom, you can see the compedeq.org. That's where you can go online, get your tickets, donate, and pass it on. So, Queen, tell us about what's next for your organization beyond Casino Night. What else how can people help you? How can they reach you all? What's big for you, because this is your opportunity to shine as well.
Okay, well, our website is www.hogoboxingfoundation.org. Beyond June 10th, we have a show that has been going on for 4 years. In the past, it's a Palmer Park Day, and it's a memorial boxing show in honor of my father, Dave Jacobs, that we lost in 2018. And we're taking it back home, where he started a boxing program inside of the Palmer Park Recreation Center. And so we're very excited about that. And that's what we have coming up September 16th at the Palmer Park Recreation Center. Beyond this, and then donations also can be taken again on our website, www.hogoboxingfoundation.org.
Excellent. Thank you so much. We appreciate that. And thank you for letting us know about that event that's coming up in September in honor of your father, Mr. Jake. What was his first name?
Dave Jacobs. Dave Jacobs.
Jacobs.
So there, she kind of played it off. She kind of playing it off, but just ask her who Dad trained.
I was going to say the legendary Dave Jacobs.
That's what I was about to say. Candy in her own body.
Real quiet, Dave.
Listen, Candy in her own body. She just was like playing it real safe. I was just waiting to see 1001, 1002. Somebody gonna say something.
I had to say it.
Yes,
I had to say it.
So now let me ask the question, Candy. Who did your dad train?
So my dad trained Sugar Ray Leonard as an amateur. Took him to the Olympics. He was his trainer when he went to the Olympics. Although during the Olympic time, you always have different coaches that are coaching the teams, or whatever sport it is. In 1976, he also worked with him when he became world champion, when he fought Duran. And beyond that, my father also worked with a lot of other champions as well. Mike Tyson was the last boxer that he worked with before he retired, but Keith Holmes locally, Aaron Pryor. There is a Thomas Hearn stayed at our house when I was young. So I've had a lot of exposure with boxing. And I do, it's like, it's not that big of a deal. But even beyond that, I am the vice president of the Washington, D.C. Boxing Hall of Fame. I've had countless positions with Potomac Valley, from, just being a regular official to all the way up to being the president. So it's something that, I was born into, and I just love it. It's just part of who I am.
And she's one of the only father-daughter Hall of Fame. You got to say that, because I don't want to mess it up. So please share that.
My dad and I, we are one of the only father-daughter duos that are inducted into the Washington, D.C. Boxing Hall of Fame. And again, for Hogo, I'll just mention, and I had missed saying this, we are an all African-American woman organization, and collectively with all of us, we have in excess of 75 years of experience with boxing. So
yes.
So listen, we don't partner with no chumps now. Come on, listen.
And you think I was going to do Hogo without her? Please.
Listen. but in truth, I mean, I'm laughing and joking, but in truth, we are products of the shoulders that we stand on. And so because of that, I think it's really important that Candy had the opportunity to talk about her dad, because she's standing on his shoulders every second, every day. And so, likewise for all of us, I think it's important to highlight our ancestors. Ashe.
Absolutely.
All right. Well, to be amongst legendary royalty is a wonderful thing, and you get a chance to meet some of these phenomenal people on June 10th at the Woodmore Country Club at Woodmore. Make sure you support people that support people. We need to do that now. It's time to, jump up. It's time to get your gloves, whatever you got to get. Tie up your tennis shoes, get your Pilates, your yoga, whatever you got to do. Do it. If you want to do, what's that, pickleball, get your pickleball.
I do want to learn how to play pickleball, though.
Yeah, well, we're going to stick with tennis for a minute. No, I'm just joking. Hey, look, but hey, listen, I'm really excited about this partnership. I want other people to let people know this partnership is coming.
Yeah.
That it's already here, and there's so many other partners that you're going to learn about that are working with Competitive Edge EQ, and just the forces. You all did a phenomenal job on Sister for Sister. That's another regional talk show podcast with Peggy and that whole crew. So
they were phenomenal.
I've heard a lot of good things about that. They were really excited about Competitive Edge after listening to what you all are doing. So, and you all tomorrow night will be on the Knight Brothers Intermittent Fasting Show. So you get a chance to see them appear there, and just a whole lot more. So this is only the beginning of Competitive Edge EQ. And
can I just give one plug?
Sure.
This is for my girls. So, and it's sidebar, but I'm gonna say it because I just need to say it. I don't need to be the only one on the screen.
What?
If Candy and Tamara asked you to purchase a ticket for this event, please purchase a ticket.
Yes.
Please. Yeah. Just use promo code HOGO and purchase your ticket. Thank you. I appreciate you.
Because we're bringing it back to the community.
I'm talking about I can't see her name. She just popped off. But yes, listen, it's for the good of the community, whether it's through Stanton Group, HOGO, Competitive Edge. It's all for the good of the community. And so we have to not be afraid. I hope that if you don't take anything away from this evening, one, and understand that EQ development is for all people. It's not just for student athletes, just boxers, just basketball players, just young people. Adults have to practice also EQ development. And if you want some of that, you can just hit me on the side. But the other part that I want,
that's right.
But the other part that I need to make sure that you take from this show is that partnerships are incredibly important. Mm-hmm. They really are. We cannot do this work alone. Our children are too important to us. And as Candy said, if not us, then who?
That's right.
Who would they depend on?
That's right.
If not us. So that's my 2 cents. You got it for free. And I'm done.
All right.
Thank you for having us.
And Lenny, you got the last word, King.
Well, to kind of tie it back in where we were going with emotional intelligence, it was a study by the NCAA in 2021, and it said 24% of all male and 36% of all female athletes felt so depressed that it was difficult to function. And that is essentially the silence of it all, that emotional intelligence, athlete or regular civilian, it's real. Mental health is real. And to bring it home is to understand that we all need help. We all need tools to work through our anxieties. As Tamara talked about, the athlete that in the gym looked like a world beater. Well, in basketball, we call them system players. Oh man, they look good in that system. You take them outside that system, they fall apart. Mm-hmm. That's because, and a shameless plug, we have our program is ACL, adaptability, communication, and leadership development. We teach athletes how to adapt, how to adjust, and that helps them to be able to walk into a 5,000 seat arena and box as if they were still in the regular gym that they train in. That's what we focus on, and that's the tools that we give.
Thanks. I'm excited for you guys.
I am too. I am too. I am too.
Yes.
Listen,
I appreciate you guys so much.
You know, listen, we appreciate you because when things feel good, then we can move boulders. When we're aligned, we can move boulders, and so I'm so grateful. One, that you guys said yes, but two, we have work to do. So let's put on our boxing gloves. I got pink ones downstairs, just so you know.
Right.
I do have my boxing gloves.
Let's do it.
Let's get busy. Let's get busy working. My husband don't want me boxing too much because he says it's whatever. Never mind. But I'm gonna box. What?
We're gonna take care of these children in the youth
That's
of
right.
our community. Because if we don't,
Who will?
who will?
Absolutely.
Did
Absolutely.
y'all hear the message? That was the message for tonight's show.
That's it.
If we don't, who
Who
will?
Who will?
We
Love
will.
you guys.
Peace and love. Thanks
All
so
right.
much.
Have a good one.